When we think of our favourite sport, we often think of the team we support or our favourite player. We might think about the coaches, the officials and the results. But do you ever stop and think about the support staff and the volunteers? Having been a chaplain for a period of time for a Premier League football club, I know something that what you see on the pitch has hundreds of people in many ways behind the scenes trying to make the very best. And I can assure you that role of a chaplain is an important role. Often has to be done quietly, behind the scenes, without much song and dance, but it is important. To tell us more about this, I'm delighted to have Parramatta Eels football team chaplain, George Dansey. George, good to welcome you on the show.
Thanks for having me and happy grand final day.
Yeah, sure. Look, you've been at the Eels, is it 2011? Did I get the year?
Correct, yes, since 2011.
How did it come about?
I knew a couple of athletes, just touching base with them on and off, one-on-one. And so at that time, the previous chaplain was in a transitional stage. And so the athletes, the players actually, were telling the football managers, look, I've got a guy that could become a personal or great chaplain. And so I went into the club looking to catch up with him, but then the football manager came in and asked if he could have a chat with me. And so by the end of that, I was actually the official chaplain of the Parramatta Eels. Yeah,
sure. And you built that relationship up. Tell us some of the things that a chaplain does.
Well, a chaplain basically is like an encouragement and support behind the scenes. And so I'm basically catching up with the partners and kids behind the scenes, just as you said. A lot of the pressures that they deal with, the players, a lot of the stuff that they can't tell anybody, building that trust and consistently just turning up for twice a week or 3 times a week at training, just making sure that I'm actually there for them, not just for the players, for the office staff, and for the coaching staff as well. I think that's quite vital in terms of I'm not just here for a specific group, but for a range.
And there are many revolving doors in sport, aren't there? I'm
Correct.
Sure that even in the time you've been there, you've seen managers come and coaches come and coaches
I've seen
go.
4 or 5 coaches come and go.
And that's a lot. And you sometimes have to be there for people in those kind of situations.
Correct. And I've touched base with the previous coaches we've had, and I've seen them around. And I think that's part of the role as a chaplain, because you're here for the long term, not just for the short term or a contract ends and you got to go. But I think you're here for everyone, from lead to the groundsman to the coaching staff. Yeah.
And when you're in that situation, how does faith inform what you do?
I tend to think of it as faith is my all. So I think of Jesus as being the servant. So I'm there just to serve and encourage and support. And I think from just being a listening ear and to see where I can fit in, I think that's vital. And I think everything that Jesus did pretty much served the community, which is my community's sport and I love. So I run the water sometimes, and if need be, or help out with the messaging, or even now with the concussion, I help out with a doctor inside when they get in their test done.
Sure. Yes, I mean, we had a footballer in the club I worked for that nearly died on the pitch. In fact, he was dead for 40 minutes. And you know, you'll probably remember the story.
Yes.
It was at Tottenham in a match there. So you're sometimes called to do things. What's the hardest thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the hardest thing is just you deal with a lot. You deal with a lot, and the ability to just offload it to somebody is vital. And I think that's the longevity of this role. If you have the ability to deal with a lot and then offload it to somebody in the right way, you can last a long time being a chaplain. Yeah.
And you certainly don't want to appear that you know the answer to every question that they'll ever ask, you know, but just to be there alongside people.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, it's grand final day. Your team's there. You're underneath it. I'm just creating a fictitious situation. You're there in that situation. I remember going to Wembley with our team.
Wow.
And you've got all that crowd. You're behind there. What do you say to the players when you get a contact with them on that day?
I just said, go out there and do your best.
Yeah.
We have a prayer group every single time, and majority of my time praying when they go out and play is just thank you, Lord, for the ability to play and to play at our best. Yeah. And I think that's more. I don't pray for a win or a loss, but just more.
I'm always pleased when I hear chaplains say that, you know, because what's the chaplain on the other side doing if you're praying to win?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's important because the way you lose is a sign of being a decent player, isn't it? Really.
Exactly, and I think I deal with becoming a chaplain more with a loss than a win. Because when there's a win, no one really wants to.
No, they don't need you then, do they?
But then there's a loss or a contract negotiation downfall, a relationship breakdown. That's when you know the chaplain's more vital than ever.
Yeah, and it isn't necessarily just at Eels or Manly. Dare we say that name?
No.
But it's not just there. It's the locals, local people playing sport at the local level too.
I think at the local level, where it be park football or park soccer, you're dealing with a lot too. A lot of kids that are coming from certain family situations that coaches now are starting to deal with, not just coaching, but dealing with family situations. And I think that's vital being a Christian, that you can actually speak into that situation.
Look, I'm always pleased to hear people are prepared to be involved in their club, roll up their sleeves and get engaged. And so, George, we want to honour you. We want to ask that we can't pray for the Parramatta Eels to win every time, can we? Surely not. But what we can do is say that we hope that you continue to have an influence for good in the club that you become very much a part of.
Thank you very much.
Bless you, and thanks for coming on the show.